I just don't understand this mess. Like, why? Why? Like, what is happening? Hmm. I don't know, folks. We'll hope it holds this time. I don't see the chat. Tripping. What's up, Nia? I don't know what's up with this. I don't know if it's. It can't be OBS because my computer drops even when I'm not connected to OBS. So I don't know what's going on. Dauntless. Yeah, I see you've been playing that. Um, all right, I don't know where I was. I was talking about the N64 Classic Mini and how I don't know where we got cut off at, but I was talking about basically how it just made sense and how. Oh yeah, I was talking about Nintendo. A lot of people believing that Nintendo like limits their stock on purpose for sales. I don't think they do that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't. There's nothing definitively that says that. I just think they didn't think that the NES, you know, Classic was going to sell as well as it did. I think that's pretty obvious with the fact that they had to wait for a whole another year to restock it. Basically, I don't think they were trying to build up any, you know, because it's going to sell what it's going to sell. I mean, you're going to get people excited, but only the people who care are going to buy it in the end. It's not like it's going to be some hot commodity. Why would you, as a company, throw those sales away, especially around the holidays? So, yeah, the what's up, Sardonic Pickle? Yeah, Nia, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool concept. Um, uh, I also just want N64 games on the virtual console, or uh, throw it into that service that'll make me, care more about Nintendo's online service. When you give us N64 and GameCube games potentially, that would make it. When I'm not going to get into that whole thing again because I already gone through that. But um, so I guess I could talk about what I would like to see or what I expect to see. I didn't make a list. I should have made one, but I just thought about talking about this right before I came on, because I had just noticed that those photos had leaked or whatever. Um, I'm pretty much confirming it. It could be, obviously it could be somebody doing, what do they call those, 3D printing thing. And they took some pictures of it, kind of elaborate or whatever. But I think from the patents and all that stuff, we think that it is coming. Um, so what do we expect? What do we expect to see? Go ahead in the chat and make your lists if you want. And we expect to see, I'm sure, at least the top 10 games. So I think we're all going to pick those. So it would be obviously Super Mario 64, Wave Race 64, Star Fox 64, um, Ocarina of Time, probably Majora's Mask, um, maybe Pilot Wings. I don't know if they'll throw Pilot Wings in or not. Maybe. Um, then we get fuzzy when it comes to like the Rare games, like even Diddy Kong Racing. Even though Rare doesn't have the rights to Diddy Kong, there are characters in that game they do have the rights to. But they could work something out with Microsoft since they're being all buddy buddy this year. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's talk about where am I at now. 5. Nintendo first party Donkey Kong 64 will likely be there. Oh my gosh, I can't even think right now. Well, I do have a stack of games here. Uh, Pokemon Stadium, I don't know. Pokemon Stadium. Um, Mario Tennis, the Mario sports games like Mario Tennis, Mario Golf. Um, I said Wave Race already. And then I'm trying to think of first party first before I get into like third party stuff. I know I'm missing at least one big game on my list. Oh yeah, duh, Mario Kart, Mario Party. So that would give us 10 right there. Um, and you could probably even drop like what I think I said Diddy Kong. Oh no, I didn't count Diddy Kong. So that's 10 pretty much first party games right there. Um, so let's talk about, you know, I get where I'm guessing there's going to be 20 or so, could be more. Um, it would be cool if they uh, included a game or two that maybe was finished but never came out. Worked out some deal because some company acquired the rights to what was the game called? Rough and Tumble. What's that was the original name of the game. 40 Winks. 40 Winks. Some company acquired the rights to that, and they're actually putting out well, not official, but new Nintendo 64 carts of the game. You can buy them now, so you can play new N64 carts for your N64 for a game that never was released on the N64. So I think that would be a really cool thing if they could work out a deal with that company to distribute that game on the Classic. That would be really cool. I want to see stuff as far as third party go. Stuff like Top Gear Rally. Love that game. And who made Top Gear Rally? I think it was Kimco. I don't know if they're still around. So you run into issues like that too, as far as what they're going to be able to get from certain third parties because some of them don't exist. You would expect like Turok to be on there, but who has the rights to Acclaim? I don't know. Um, I want to say it's what's the company? THQ Nordic, because they've been like grabbing old IPs and old company licenses like that. So I don't know if it's them, but Turok, Turok needs to be. I feel like it needs to be. If it can be, it needs to be on the classic. Um, one of them, you don't have to put them all. One, two, one or two, I would want the most. Um, I guess because those are my tops. But I really liked three. I thought three was awesome. Um, it was definitely pushing the N64 hardware really hard, and it was probably the best looking game on the console, honestly, as far as visuals and effects go. So, um, we see Castlevania. I kind of hope not, because I'd rather not use those slots on janky games like Castlevania 64. Uh, they'll always have like that spot. Oh, it was the first 3D Castlevania games, but they weren't very good, so I wouldn't want them to waste that spot. Let's see what you guys are talking about here. Let's see. Mario Party, Sardonic Pickle, except Mario 64, Lilac Wars, and Ocarina of Time. Mario Party 1 through 3. Yeah, it could be more. It could be multiple Mario parties or multiple in the series. Like both. I think both Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask will probably be there. How about games like Mystical Ninja? Yes, Mystical Ninja. Um, Goma's Great Adventure, which is a part two. Hybrid Heaven. Yes, I think Hybrid Heaven needs to be on there. Because I think a lot of people missed it, even people that were into their N64s. I think the game didn't sell terribly; it sold okay, but I think a lot of people missed it. It was one of the most unique RPGs out there. I think it started off as a Metal Gear game, Metal Gear Solid game, I think, and it turned into something completely different. You can kind of see that Metal Gear kind of aesthetic to it visually, but obviously it became a totally different game and a really good game. So that's a great pick, Hybrid Heaven. Shadow Man 64, again, I think that's Acclaim, if I'm not mistaken. And then you have to worry about the rights from whatever, I don't know who the comic book was made by, but then you have to worry about those rights as well. So I don't know if they could pull that off. That would be a great pick. Um, the Yeah, I mean that would be a really good pick. And then okay, Snowboard Kids from Nintendo. No, Snowboard Kids was not from Nintendo. Where's my copy? I can't pull it out right now. But I want to say it was Kimco. I could be wrong, but it wasn't Nintendo. Snowboard Kids wasn't Nintendo. Doom 64 would be awesome. That would be a good pick for a third-party game. GoldenEye, again, GoldenEye is another one of those where it's the license thing. Obviously, you have the license with Rare, and then you also have the license with who owns the rights to? Is it Sony that has the James Bond rights? And then that's that's a hard thing to I think to be able to pull off. But if the Rare thing works with Microsoft, you could see Perfect Dark. Um, I like Perfect Dark better overall as a game. Obviously, GoldenEye um, has the GoldenEye factor. I mean, I was a huge I still am, even though I've kind of waned in recent James Bonds. I'm a huge 007 fan, and at the time especially, and this was Pierce Brosnan's first movie, and I was wanting Pierce Brosnan as James Bond since Remington Steele in the 80s. And I always thought he was perfect, and I think Remington Steele was the reason he couldn't be on or in the movies as earlier because he was contracted for that show. So we got Timothy Dalton. But yeah, obviously GoldenEye is that game that everybody remembers as far as especially the 4-player multiplayer was insane. But I would say You know, it didn't have the impact because it came after. It was basically a sequel that wasn't really a sequel. Perfect Dark. Um, it was doing some really cool things. Had some awesome weapons. The whole sci-fi story. Um, I love that. So I think for me, Perfect Dark would be a good uh, substitute if we could get that. It's not obviously it's not GoldenEye. There's way more memories with GoldenEye. So yeah, Turok 1 and 2 says 12 feet tall. Can't believe you are leaving out the top tier N64. Stop playing. Stop playing, Visor Grunt. Quest 64. Yeah, I definitely am leaving that out on purpose as well as the amazing Titus game, Superman 64. So yeah, yes, 12 feet tall, perfect. Resident Evil 2 would be perfect. I think that would be pretty easy to happen, and a great third party pick. Yeah, we don't just want Nintendo games. I agree. The games that I mentioned are just games that I think will be on there because they'd be easiest for Nintendo to make, obviously because not make, but it'd be easiest for Nintendo to put on there because Nintendo owns them. So that's why I started with those. But Superman 64, I knew somebody was gonna say it. Instinct Labs, um, for the LOLs, yeah. I don't want to waste a slot. If it, as long as it doesn't take up a slot for something that is a good game, then again, Superman 64, you have the license thing with DC, and Titus isn't around anymore. I don't know how that. I mean, DC probably just owns the rights and they can say whatever they want to do that. But nobody wants Superman 64 on the N64 Classic, even for the lulz. Um, Winback. Oh yeah, Winback. That would be awesome. I don't know. I can't remember who made Winback. Was that wasn't Konami? Um, but Winback would be a great pick because it was basically N64's, as close as it can come to. It was N64's Metal Gear. It was the first game I remember that had the cover system, the shooter cover system, and it never gets credit for that for whatever reasons. But and then it's like N64 was really known for 3D platformers. It was really known for racing games, and it was really known for, I want to say really known for them, but it did have a lot of, not a lot, but a good amount of 3D fighters. And I would love to see some Midway stuff, um, maybe some Mortal Kombats. Midway doesn't own the rights to that anymore. I forget, is it Warner Brothers now? Um, so maybe some Mortal Kombat, maybe um, what's the game? Fighter's Destiny. I think that is also a Kemco game. Um, so Fighters Destiny 1 and 2 were great games, very underappreciated games. That would be great for the N64. And they're fighting games that you couldn't get anywhere else. So they'd be really good picks. Um, who has, okay, Flying Dragons, yeah. Flying Dragons, yeah. Flying Dragons for me was okay. I found the fighters to be a little bland, and it was a little slow for me, but it's not a bad pick. Um, Conker's bad for a day. Okay, so yeah, let's talk about obviously the rare games that could or could not make it, or could or may not make it, depending on how cozy Microsoft and Nintendo really are. Um, so obviously, Conker's bad for a day, Banjo Kazooie, um, Jet Force Gemini would be great. Uh, what's Blast Corp? Um, I mentioned Diddy Kong Racing earlier. So, I mean, there's a plethora of really good games from Rare that that also lended itself to Nintendo 64's identity, and it would be kind of weird if they don't make it. So hopefully, behind the scenes, they're working out a deal to bring those games, um, with the blessing of Microsoft, and I guess they'll get a cut of the proceeds from the sales of the console. So I don't know why Microsoft wouldn't want that extra money. So um, obviously, those would be great picks. I would say a third party pick that would be really good is probably Body Harvest. Because I want stuff that on there that most, or not most, I don't know if most, but a lot of N64 heads probably missed out on. Like I mentioned, Hybrid Heaven would be perfect. And I think Body Harvest would also be perfect. There's a really good story. I've been meaning to do a video on it, and I will get to that really soon, about Body Harvest and the crazy development cycle, and the company that basically came up out of Body Harvest was Rockstar North, and that led to the tumultuous relationship between Nintendo and Rockstar, going back to the N64 when they were part of Nintendo's uh, Dream Team developer group, which included Iguana and Midway, and I think Kimco was in there too, and some others. So that would be an interesting video. I think I want to do that. So look forward to that within the next week. I think that'd be a really cool video to go over. And then yeah, you obviously have the other games that were basically the identity of N64 were the wrestling games from um, THQ. Who was the company that actually THQ was what do they call it, the publisher, but the developer, I can't remember the name of them right now, but those games were really good. They were better than the later Acclaim. I think Acclaim made the later WWF games, or yeah, it was WWF still. But the WCW, NWO Revenge, WrestleMania 2000, all that stuff was THQ, and whatever the company is, I can't remember their name right now. Maybe somebody will put it in the chat. But yeah, stuff like that would be great. Um, Mission Impossible. Again, I don't know about the licensing for that 12 feet tall, but that would be a good pick. I think that's another game that's really underrated on the N64. Yes, it has its flaws, mostly in the visual department and um, kind of the pacing department, but it's a very unique game and it's a good game that I think a lot of people probably missed. Yeah, there's somebody advisor wrote Superman 64. Stop it. Uh, Again, yeah, Killer Instinct 64. Obviously, that's a rare game. That would be good. What else was I gonna say? Anyone remember Chameleon Twist? Yeah, I remember Chameleon Twist 1 and 2. I have them both. Extreme platformer filled with insta death balls. Says Extinct Labs. Yeah, very unique platformer as well. Um, Definitely enjoyed those. I mean, they're not great games, but I thought they were good games. Pokemon Snap says 12 feet tall. Yes. I wasn't as big into Pokemon Snap as a lot of people are, but I know a lot of people liked it. I was gonna say Pokemon Stadium, but that game really doesn't work. It couldn't work. I mean, it can work, but you can't like do the major feature of it, which is import um, your Pokemon from Pokemon Yellow with the transfer pack. So if that's not going to be a thing, it's going to be kind of lame to play Pokemon Stadium without that feature. Um, Killer Instinct Gold, yeah. Laker Link. I don't think the OG Smash Brothers was a. Oh, I didn't even mention Smash. How could I? See, I knew there was one major one. I even said it. There was one major game I was missing. obviously Smash Brothers. Um, I think that as a no-brainer, that would definitely be there because people don't talk about the original N64 Smash Brothers game as much as they do Melee, because Melee pretty much overshadows everything. But that game was so unique, and it had obviously the greatest video game commercial of all times. Um, Go look it up if you haven't seen it. It's great, and I wish Nintendo would do more stuff like that. And it was pretty edgy. It was perfect. And yeah, so obviously Smash Brothers will be there. Um, I would bet everything on that happening. So AKI, thank you, Cornelius Brodniks. AKI was the one who developed it. Yes, developed the wrestling games. Acclaim made Warzone and Attitude. Yeah, and made WrestleMania 2000. Did they make WrestleMania 2000? I thought that was THQ. That made WrestleMania 2000. Warzone and Attitude, I knew that was Acclaim, but I think WrestleMania 2000 was THQ. Oh, I think that's what you're saying here, Lake Link. I think you fixed that, corrected that. So, um, Shadowgate 64, great one. That's a great pick, um, because I believe um, that Shadowgate is actually the only of its kind. The other versions of that game were not like the 64 version, and that happened with Doom too, because Doom 64 was unlike the PC version or any of the other console versions. It was a unique version for the N64. So that's why that would be great, and obviously Shadowgate 64 would be a great pick as well. I didn't say. I don't think I said F-Zero. Maybe I did. F-Zero obviously is a no-brainer pick as well. You know what would be cool? I think, I don't know if somebody else mentioned this or not, but again, like they did with the SNES Classic, um, bringing Star Fox 2 to it, something that was not released before. Why not bring F-Zero expansion to the N64 and not just the regular version? Now, I briefly talked about F-Zero expansion in another video. In case you guys don't know about this Nintendo 64 DD, which is just a disc drive system that came out only in Japan, kind of flopped, and so it never came to the West. It was planned to come. There's actually somebody has a prototype for the American version, the U.S. version. So that thing was actually built, and it was going to happen, but because it failed in Japan so badly, they didn't bring it over. But I wish they would have, because just because it failed in Japan doesn't mean it would have done the same in the U.S., because the N64 was in last place in Japan, and people loved it in the West. It was behind even the Sega Saturn in Japan. Sega Saturn was actually number 2 behind PlayStation in Japan at the time. So I wish they wouldn't engage that audience to bring us N64 DD, because that was one of the things I read up on. I was so excited about, and we never got it. And we don't get the disc systems in the West for some reason. We didn't get the Famicom disc system in the West, and that actually did well, I thought, in Japan, but they never brought that over. And then we didn't get the 64 disc drive in the West, and so that would be, I think, a cool thing, is to give us the N64 disc drive version of F-Zero X, and because that version allows you to create custom tracks. Now, obviously, you can't upload them to the internet because there's no internet connection. I'm sure there's not going to be one with the NES or SNE. With the N64 Classic, there's not going to be an internet connection through that. And that's what the thing was with the 64 DD, is that it was connected to the internet. So you could upload your tracks, your custom tracks, and let other people play them. On the N64, people, back in 1998, that was the thing. And that's what I'm talking about, Nintendo's innovation, that they doesn't translate to today's Nintendo for some reason. They don't bring these things. So Yeah, Smash Brothers Pokemon Stadium could work if red, blue, or yellow version was built into the Game Boy Tower. What do you mean Game Boy Tower? Uh, Instinct Labs. Uh, Video game the OG Smash would make people go nuts. Yeah, I mean I still play it, and so the N64 Classic isn't as exciting to me because I still have my N64 and I still play my N64. Um, so it won't be as exciting to me. It will be cool to play basically the top games on the console on a plug and play that I can hook up to my HD TV and have it look good without all the crazy connection I'd go through now. I actually do play my N64 on my HD TV, but I have to run it through what is it called? An AV SCART converter thing, and then run that into my um, system, and that's just like um, that is a I have to plug it in because it requires a AC adapter, and it's just and then you have to have the SCART thing, and you have to have the converter to go AV to SCART, and then to HDMI, or not AV to SCART, HDMI to SCART, and so yeah, it's a convoluted mess, and it'd be great to be able to play that just in the plug and play for the top tier games. So where am I? And if Japanese Mario 64 will rumble support. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Linker Link, because I don't know what features the controller is going to have. I mean, I'm guessing the rumble will be built in. I don't know. That's the thing I want to see about this classic is the controller. I mean, they have to go with the classic look. It's a classic, right? So they can't like update the controller and get rid of the middle dongle and have it look more like a N64, or make it look more like the Switch Pro controller or the Wii U Pro controller. They can't have it look like that. I don't think they're gonna call it a classic. Um, but I think you'll have the ability to. I'm pretty sure because you can do it. If they continue with the same input, you have the ability to plug in your Wii Classic controller, and obviously that has analog sticks on it and all that good stuff. So you'll be able to do that, but that doesn't have rumble. So well, I mean, one of the big things about the N64 was its ability to rumble. That was one of its unique features that other companies jumped on. So I would think the controller is going to have to be redesigned to some degree. I don't think they're going to have like the standard controller and then have the rumble pack. It's not going to be an attachment, obviously, but even like just having the rumble pack built onto it. I mean, that's the way I would want it, but I know some people probably wouldn't want that. So it'd just be one piece instead of you being able to pull it out, the rumble pack. So yeah, it'll just be like one complete piece. I don't have my rumble pack to show you, but I do have my N64 controller. The other one dropped. So instead of having the rumble pack slide into here, it's just attached. So to still have the same feeling weight-wise, or the same feel when you hold it with the rumble pack. I love this controller, man. I know a lot of people today hate on it, and they act like it's so confusing. And even for those noobs who was confusing too, it did come with a manual that showed you how to hold it. So if it was confusing to you, maybe you didn't buy it new and didn't get that manual, or because it's very simple. If you're playing a 2D game, you're going to need the D-pad. So you hold it with the D-pad, and you have your action buttons there. So I don't understand the issues with it. And obviously, most of the games anyway, you're using the analog stick. So you're going to be holding like this most of the time. 85% of the time, this is how you're going to hold the N64 controller. There's no confusion. I don't know why. I've seen some people say they need to hold it. I mean, why would you? It doesn't feel good. Like, why wouldn't you hold it like a? Because that's the thing about it. It's like a gun. Especially that's why I love GoldenEye and games, first-person shooters, period, on the console, because it felt like you were holding a gun with the trigger. This is the first controller that came in the box that gave you that feel. So it felt like you had the trigger there, when this is what you use to fire, is the Z button, and you walked around with the analog stick, obviously, and you could strafe. This is to me the closest thing to um, having mouse and keyboard, because obviously these are your arrow buttons. The C buttons were your arrow buttons, so you could strafe left and right. I mean, you change the in the game your control setup, but that's how I would do it. I would use the C buttons to strafe left and right, and to look up and down. It's like in GoldenEye, down to look down and up to look up. Obviously, and you strafe left and right, and you move around with this, like or I think I actually used this to move as well. So forward and back, left and right, and you could look around with. That's how I played GoldenEye. So you could change the settings and to what you were comfortable with. So I never understood people saying this was a weird controller to hold, or I did. It was so confusing. It made me. It reminded me of how people reacted to the Wii U. Oh, is it an add-on? Is it a? It just seemed like that same kind of fake confusion that a lot of YouTubers, usually 20 somethings to maybe early 30 something YouTubers, who were probably 10 to 12 when the N64 came out, um, or younger, 8 to 12 or whatever. I see them usually say that about the N64 controller, and I just think it's uh, faux hipsterness. I don't believe it, because I never had an issue with the N64 controller. I love this thing. So yeah, like that. Those are my biggest, not worries, but wonderings. I wonder how they're gonna implement that stuff. So all right, let me look at the chat here. You guys have been saying some things, or maybe I just scrolled back too far. Yeah, I did. And if so, Japanese Mario 64. Okay, so yeah, that's what I was talking about. I don't know if I mentioned Laker Link actually saying that, but yeah, the Japanese Mario 64 had Rumble Pack or Rumble capabilities. Well, not the original. The original version didn't, but they came out with a later version, and they did that with Wave Race as well. Wave Race and Mario 64. Those are the only two I can think of. The Japanese in the Japanese market, they came out with revisions, which would probably be DLC today, obviously, but it was a different cart because they didn't have that back then. So they came out with revisions for both of those games that implemented Rumble. So Mario, when you ground pounded, when you got hit, you feel the rumble, which was awesome, and that's the version I love to play. And same thing with Wave Race. It also had rumble feedback in that game, and the other version, the Japanese version that came out later. And very cool. That's if, like I said, if the N64 Classics controller is one piece and it has rumble built in, or whatever, however they do it, yes, that would be great to get those versions. But I don't know, with translations, if they have to do some extra work. They should do extra work though, because they did extra work kinda for the SNES Classic by or putting in a game that never came out. So that would be a nice little incentive for, especially for people like me, who have to play the Japanese version of Mario, and you can't read it, unless you speak Japanese. Because I like playing with the rumble, and the same thing for Wave Race. Wave Race especially, I think feels really good because you're feeling the subtle, it's almost HD rumble because you're feeling like the subtle waves, not just like running into people. You can actually feel the waves, the harder waves, the crashes as you go on. So that would be really cool to get. All right, let me read some more. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. Yes, love Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. It hasn't aged well, but man, I remember playing that game the first time, just being blown away by the Battle of Hoth scene. Because that was the first time we got that to look so good, to where you didn't have to imagine in a game. Because the Super Nintendo uh, Star Wars games, they look good for 2D games, but you didn't get that whole like feel, especially with the music. And Shadows of the Empire was great. I really liked that game. I thought it was unique. It didn't have the big dumb, quote unquote dumb boss battle at the end. That a lot of games fall into that trope. Um, it did basically what the book does, and that's how the game ends. And I really like that. The big bad in the game, um, not really a spoiler alert. You don't really fight him, one on one or anything. The big bad in the game. I can't remember his name right now. But you don't fight him. Prince something. You don't fight him at the end like you would a big, most video games. You have a space battle. I think that's the last level actually. So I love that game. Star Wars Shadows of the Empire for sure. Um, Best Star Wars game of all time since 12 Feet Tall. I don't know about that. I think that would probably go to Rogue Squadron 1 or 2 as the best. But you know, I can't I can't hate on your your opinion there because it's definitely in my tops. So Cornelius says bring back OG Tony Hawk. Oh, that would be a great third-party game, Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk 2, I think that's mostly everybody's favorite. I think that was the best one, Tony Hawk 2. GB Tower was a feature that let you play your red, blue, yellow version of the stadium via the trims. Why do I not remember that? Instinct Labs, GB Tower was a feature that let you play your red, blue, and yellow version on Stadium via the transfer pack. Maybe I just don't remember the name because I knew you could do that. Maybe I just don't remember it being GB Tower. I haven't played Poker. I mean, I have it obviously, but I haven't played the game in forever. So I guess I just don't remember that naming. 12 Feet Tall. I think the N64 Mini should come with 40 games. Hey, I do too. I would love it to do that. I would love it to come with at least 30. I don't know if that's going to happen. It should happen because unlike even the PlayStation, I'll talk about that I guess in a little bit. But even the PlayStation Classic, it has hurdles that the N64 Classic won't have. So I'll talk about that in a minute. I don't know if I did in the video or not, but maybe I think I did in somebody else. Probably was Real Gamers podcast where we talked about it. I think I just said that. You could unlock modes to double and triple the speed. Must have missed something there. Instinct. Muhammad, the Switch has no games. Switch has a lot of games. It's just not a lot of unique games this year. And I've said that, so that's nothing new. 12 Feet Tall, they should let us use the original N64 controllers. I have like 5 of them. That would be great, but it's not going to happen because of the input. I'm pretty sure they're going to keep using that Wii input for the controllers, and it's probably because they have a surplus of those. It's easy for them to do. It's cheap. It keeps the cost down. If they have to put in N64 controller ports, that opens up, more price, more hardware, stuff like that. So I don't think that's going to be a thing. I don't know why my nose is so itchy. I hope I don't start allergies because I had them terrible last night. Me and Juice were playing Rocket League on PC, which was awesome. I got it for like under $8, and I can play it online for free. But we're not gonna get into that. But it looks really good on the PC, Rocket League. Hope they put better analog sticks so it doesn't get worn out. Good. Yeah, you're just bringing up all the good reminders for me, or the good topics. Yes, Laker Link. I don't believe they'll use those same that analog stick setup because I think it would be too expensive. I think that will be an upgrade to the classic. Is the analog stick? I think it'll be probably based on the Wii from the what do you call it? The nunchuck, the joystick on the nunchuck, or I don't know if they'll do a higher version of that because I think they want to keep the cost down. And the Wii's analog stick was pretty cheap, not cheap as in build, but it was pretty cheap to make. It was pretty sturdy. It's a really good analog stick on the nunchuck. So I think it'll actually end up being that analog stick and not because I think, I mean, if you think about the analog stick for the N64, that thing had like a rubber band, and it had that the chalking issue. I don't think that they're gonna go with that. So sadly, N64 controller is not made for fighting games. Maybe that's why there was less fighting games on the N64. I think it was made for fighting games. I just think there weren't a lot made for it. I think, or there weren't enough made for it. And I think that may have to do more with um, the N64 cartridges, and because it was expensive, and licensing fees. They lost. People talk about Square, but they lost Capcom for the most part. I mean, Capcom put out a couple of games on the N64, but they were the guys who obviously did most of the fighting games back then. And Capcom was with Sega Saturn big time. A console that didn't do very well. They chose Sega Saturn over N64. I mean, they had a bigger presence on PlayStation, but even their bigger, their the Marvel versus Capcoms and all that stuff, that didn't come to PlayStation. That went to Saturn and then the Dreamcast. So Capcom didn't care for PlayStation as much, or N64. So I don't think obviously, like I said, you know it has 8 face buttons. This could be XYZ or ABC. If you do it like that, it's very simple to play that way. And I'm surprised a lot of companies didn't do it that way, because you didn't have to. These don't have to be separated and only be C buttons. If you're playing a fighting game, you don't need C buttons. So these can just be, face buttons. You could just be action buttons, and they could have easily done that. Even Ocarina of Time didn't use the C buttons as camera buttons. They use it for inventory stuff. So I just think, coupled with the high price of carts and just the stigma that the N64 had, because it was more of a platformer racing console, it just didn't get those games. But N64 could have easily had fighting games. You have the shoulder buttons, you have your D-pad, you have 8, like I said, or 8. You have 6 face buttons, 6 face action buttons, and you have your obviously you have your left and right too. So they could have happened. I think it was more of a business thing than it was an issue with the controller. Um, so I'm just speculating. I don't know for sure, but like I said, I think the controller is very capable. Certainly more capable than the Dreamcast controller. The D-pad on that thing was a joke. It wasn't very good, and it didn't have as many action face buttons as the N64 controller has. So, but it still got a lot of fighting games. I think it was what I'm speculating on as far as why they didn't get him. So I equate these idiots to fumbling around infomercials. I'm missing something for sure. I mastered the N64 controller in 2 minutes. Yeah, 12 feet tall. Me too. I was super excited to get the thing, so I was reading and paying attention to everything. Not that you had to do that. You could just look at it and say, all right, if I'm playing a 2D game, I'm holding it where I can touch the D-pad comfortably. If I'm playing a 3D game, I'm holding it where I can touch the analog controller comfortably. I don't. It. I. I just don't believe people when they say that. They either weren't really there and they just want to join the crowd of people who say that, or they're not good gamers. I don't know. Because for me, and especially in those days, gaming was all about the cool new thing, and the cool new thing was the analog stick. That was the cool new thing. Rumble Pack, that was a cool new thing. I know that turned a lot of gamers off that were playing games up to the Super Nintendo. They were like, "Oh, this is weird." So I don't think the gamers today, or gamers who talk about that stuff, are those people who stopped playing games because it got too strange. 3D was too weird and jarring for them. I don't. But that's how they're talking. They're talking like they're that crowd, but they're supposed to be these big gamers. It doesn't make sense to me. I wanted the new thing all the time, and I always like really wanted to learn how to play the new thing. So I just want to play N64 games on my Switch. So do I. I've said that 100 times. I don't know why that's not a thing. Maybe that will happen after they're happy and they sell all the N64 classics. I'll buy them both. I mean, I'm not buying the N64 classic for the games per se. I'm buying it for the novelty of the hardware. Um, that's why I'm buying it. I'm gonna have this little miniature N64 console. N64 is my favorite console of all time. So yeah, of course, I want to have like a little mini console. I'm not even sure how much I'll play on that thing. I'm sure I won't play on it more than I play on my actual N64 because look at my, this is like a third of my games. Look at my game stack here. The N64 Classic will never have that. But what it probably will have is the same thing that the SNES and N64 Mini have, which is a way to, put your own ROMs on it. And there's only I think they give you 300 megabytes of space or something like that on the. I know I'm pretty sure that's what it is on the SNES Mini. It's probably the same on the NES Mini. So 300 megabytes will go a lot faster on the N64 because those games were much bigger. Not yeah, they were a pretty decent jump in size. We're talking, anywhere from uh, games that were topped out at maybe 2 to 4 megabytes on the Super Nintendo. Maybe you got 12. That was probably a stretch, but to games that were 32 to 64 megabytes, um, or was it 512? I think you get a game like what is it, Resident Evil 2, that maxed out. So as far as the size cart, so that'll probably be a thing too. But I'll still never be able to get every game, and you have to switch them out, and that's a pain because you have to dump your kernel and re-upload. It's not a hard thing to do to jailbreak, not jailbreak. That's not the proper term. To mod, you know, uh, uh, software mod your SNES Classic, but it's just a process. You don't want to keep doing too much because it's a process. Totally off subject though. Why do you think Sony came out with the PlayStation Classic Mini? Because of the SNES and the NES Minis. Huge um, success. It's it's pretty obvious. We've had plug and play consoles forever, and they've just been kind of a little 20 to 40 to maybe $50 novelty thing that sat on shelves at Walmart. Um, the Atari one, the Sega Genesis one, which isn't the good one. It's not very good as far as emulation. Um, so we've had those, but when they saw the astronomical success of the NES, when that thing is outselling like PlayStation 4 in a month hardware wise sales, I mean obviously it's way cheaper, but even with it being cheaper, selling that many units for a console that's emulating a 30-year-old console, you know, Sony was like, yeah, we got to make that money too. But they're gonna have issues that N64 Classic Mini won't have, and let's talk about that real quick. And the issues are the size of the games. That is the main issue. Um, Maybe the other issue is pretty close to that, but the size of the games, a CD is 700 megabytes plus, right? Is it 700 or 650, somewhere around there? Um, so that's a lot, as far as having to have internal memory to hold each game. So at minimum, each game will be 650 megabytes, and at maximum, you have games that are multiple discs that will be 2 gigabytes plus games, like the Final Fantasies, the big RPGs and stuff like that will get up there. So that is going to be a huge issue, and I think uh, the fact that they're going with the old school 2D controller version of the PlayStation is gonna cut out a lot of those bigger games that came out later. So you're gonna be limited in the type of games you're gonna get. And I was talking about the identity of the N64. You're gonna be missing some of those identity games on the PlayStation Classic Mini, unless they have something up to their sleeve that I can't foresee. um, games that use the analog sticks. You know, one of my favorite games is, and it was the game that came with the analog stick, is Ape Escape. That's one of my favorite PS1 games, and you're not going to be able to play that, not with that controller. Now they're going to offer a second controller you can buy separately that has the analog sticks, maybe, but then you're asking people to buy your console and then buy the analog stick game, or buy the analog stick controller separately, and then you're still kind of um, splitting your audience, because it's like, well, the system comes with the regular D-pad one. So are you going to put games that require the analog sticks on? No, I wouldn't think you would. That would be kind of messed up. Um, and they're obviously already cutting costs with the console, the PlayStation 1 Classic Mini. They're cutting costs already by uh, by not by not giving you an AC adapter with it. That is a cost-cutting measure. No AC adapter, obviously one controller, which is not as big of a thing. But it's because, trust me, even at $100, they're probably not making a whole lot off of those things, or at least they want to make enough to where it's worth it putting that out. So, like I said, they got to put a bigger internal storage to hold 20 games. You know, at minimum, what is it, 20? Let's say times 700 megabytes. That's, oh my gosh, I'm so terrible at math. Is that 2 times 7 is obviously 14. So is that 14,000 megabytes? Right? That's 14,000 megabytes, right? Which is uh, basically 14 gigs. Um, are they going to put 15, 16 gigs of internal storage in there? Probably. That's not too bad. That's actually, that's the what is it? The Switch has 32 gigabytes of internal storage, so that's half. So that's not too bad. But then again, like I said, you're leaving out the bigger identity PS1 identity games, with that size limitation and with the controller they decided to go with for it. And then again, I think the controller they went with it for was a cost-cutting measure, because the analog sticks, the dual analog sticks, and Rumble are not going to be there, and that's another cost thing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Alex, Wu-Tang. That's right, man. Wu-Tang for life. Um, Missed that. Okay. Capcom. Oh yeah. Somebody said I can't remember who it was. I wanted to bring up Mega Man Legends, which is Mega Man 64 on N64. So that would be a good title. Capcom and Nintendo seem to have a pretty good relationship right now, so they could bring that game over. I was just about to say Capcom went all in on Saturn, all those X-Men fight. Yeah, so I was talking about earlier, Visor. So yeah, I mean they were supporting the hell out of Saturn, and that thing pretty much bombed, and they supported that over, N64 and PlayStation. There were obviously some some Capcom games on PlayStation as far as their fighting games, but their bigger ones were not on the PlayStation. So, what was that Lamborghini game? Oh yeah, what was that Lamborghini game? Laker Link is asking. It's called Automobili Lamborghini for the N64. So, I don't know if that company is around anymore, but yeah, that would be a good one. Dreamcast controller sucked ass. 12 feet tall. Yeah, I mean, I think it gets a pass, and I love the Dreamcast, and I'm a huge Sega head. Um, but the controller wasn't that good, man. Like the ergonomics. Let me see if I can pull mine out. Yeah, here it is. Like my problem was the ergonomics of the Dreamcast controller. Like it's flat. Like these, what do you call it? These grips are flat and they go straight down. They need to be pointed out because your hands automatically do this. Oh, I'm gonna drop this thing. They kind of see how your, your what do you call this area? Like basically your palms, when you put your hands on the controller, they do this. They're not straight like that. They kind of go out like this. And the Dreamcast controller, it almost even comes in some when you get to this part of it. So it like if you hold it like where it feels comfortable, your thumb is way up here, and look where this thumb is for the D-pad. Like so you got to hold it like this, and that gets crampy after a while. Like it's not the best way to hold it. And then you put obviously the, what do they call this, jumper pack or jump pack, which is basically a rumble pack, and your VMU in here, and this is a pretty hefty controller with everything in it. So I mean, I like it how it looks, but I think design-wise, these teeth need to be out this way some, because then you can hold it more comfortably, or it may need to be higher so your thumb could fit. Because look what I'm having to do. I have to bend my thumb down to hit, especially the A and B button, or you have to hold it down here, which is not comfortable with the grip. So that was my only issue with the Dream. I think it's a really cool looking controller. I actually think the Saturn, was better because it was rounded. The Saturn 3D controller, I can't reach one from where I am. I don't think I have one in here. I don't think I have one. Oh, my junk. Oh, look, here's my transfer pack. Yeah, so you put your Pokemon game in here, and then you put this into your N64, and then you can transfer your Pokemon games into your console, and you can play them on your big screen, and you could transfer your Pokemon over from red, blue, and yellow, which is very cool. Yeah, I don't see it here. Oh, did I get lucky? No. It's a GameCube controller. But yeah, so where's my? Oh yeah. Those are issues you're gonna run into when you're dealing with that. So where are we here in the chat? San Francisco Rush. Oh, those would be great games. Yes, 12 feet tall. San Francisco Rush would be great. Yeah, San Francisco Rush. Yeah, the PlayStation Classic Mini does not make sense to me, even though I can't wait to buy that thing. Yeah, it's the same. Like, PS1 is my favorite PlayStation console, but I like the later I didn't get a PS1 until 98, mid 98, because I could not get on for the Final Fantasy games once I realized they're not coming. See, it's easy to see now what happened with Square and all those companies, but back then, even though I was reading magazines and stuff, keeping up to date on this stuff, it's not like where it is now, where the minute something happens, it's on Twitter or something like that. Back then, I think a lot of gamers just didn't know. They said, okay, Super Nintendo had all these games, and eventually the N64 will as well. So we were all thinking that at some point these games would end up on the N64. We weren't savvy with a lot of this stuff. We didn't know that all the logistics, all the people talk about it in their YouTube channels and stuff now, but back then we didn't know about the infighting and all this, the stress related stuff when it came to third parties and N64. Yes, you read about it, but even then you didn't have all the in-depth stuff. People weren't as keen to talk about that stuff as they are, 20 years later. So you have all the background information. But at the time it was going on, the war was going on with the three consoles. You didn't know that stuff. You just assumed because you weren't, I wasn't. I was into a Nintendo and Sega a lot, obviously, but even then I wasn't as into video games. I had a lot of other stuff going on at the time. I was in high school. Into my hip hop thing. So I was busy, with life and being a young man and being an old kid into a young man, all that stuff, that transition. So a lot of people, unless you were like an industry person, you didn't know about all the ins and outs of all this stuff. So I just assumed at some point those N64 games were coming. Those Final Fantasy would show up at some point. And then later in the life of the consoles, you realized, because you learned stuff. I mean, I got more tech savvy, and I understood a lot of the stuff, but it was much later in the consoles life cycles. So where are we? San Francisco Rush. I said that PlayStation. Hey everyone, says Trizzy. Nah, what's up? 12P told you think do you think or do you want Microsoft to come out with the OG Xbox Classic Mini? If you ask me, I want one. It's not going to happen. There's a couple of reasons it's not going to happen. One being, the main reason is that those games are just too damn big. You're moving into the DVD era of video games, and you're looking at 4 gig games. And to have a plug-and-play system that has 4 gig games on it, 4 gig plus size games on it, is just not practical. Because again, the internal storage. Internal flash is expensive. And in order to play those games, they're going to be that size, and it's just not a practical thing. So Microsoft, unfortunately, can't do it. And PlayStation, even Sony, is right on the cusp of being able to do it. They're having to cut these corners, like I mentioned, with the controller and with the AC adapter, just to be able to turn a profit on theirs. There's no way Microsoft would be able to turn a profit on mini OG Xbox unless it was like $200. It had to be a $200 system, $150 on the low end, for them to turn a profit. So it would be cool. It would be amazing to see an Xbox that isn't as big as the tank, like my Xbox, like the OG Xbox was. But and the games on it. Oh man, it would have some great games to pick from. Because the OG, the Xbox original is slept on for. It was a very unique console. It had some really good, what do you call it? Games that only came out on it. I'm having a brain freeze here for some reason. It had a original. What is the freaking term? Games exclusive. It had some really good exclusives on it. A lot of them that were slept on because obviously it didn't do as well. It was a new console. It was a new company stepping into gaming, so a lot of its kind of classic games didn't sell as well, or aren't fondly or remembered because it's not quite classic yet. I don't think. Not the GameCube, Xbox, PlayStation 2 era isn't quite classic. It's almost there, but again, the size of the games is its biggest hindrance. DC controller was my absolute favorite controller and most comfortable, but it definitely takes getting used to. Yeah, like I said, like for the most comfort, like it never felt comfortable for me. The way I wanted to hold it for it to feel comfortable, it was hard to reach the buttons, like I said. And then you had to hold it a certain way. Basically, where is it? Basically, with your hands away from, what you want to grip. You want to grip this like this, but you can't. You have to hold it like this, basically, to be able to reach the buttons and the D-pad. And if you were using analog stick, it was a lot easier because the only issue you have is kind of floating this hand to reach all the buttons. But because you can't do this, I mean, you're gonna be cramping all up in here if you did this. So it was easier when you're using analog stick. But for like fighting games, you want to use the D-pad, obviously, and you have to basically hold it like that to play. and or see how my hands are apart here. They're kind of out, and that's how these. I feel like these should have stuck out to match where my hands have to go to hold it. And then the trigger. I mean, it depended on the game, but you know, if you're gonna be using the triggers on a D-pad on a D-pad or a D-pad fighting game, and this was always weird too. You had to like run it up this way uh, because it was always like in the way. It's like weird to have the cable coming out of this end instead of out of the top. I wish they would have found a way to make it come out of here, but it would have been weird. So they had to do this whole, you know, snap it into place thing. It's just so weird. That's a minor gripe though. But I mean, I like the controller. It's just not my favorite comfort-wise. Um, where are we? Yeah, I just read that. Trizina, hey, 12 feet. I forgot about the games. RIP Classic X or Xbox Classic Mini. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen, man. Sorry. It's practical. It's just not practical. It would be cool, but it's just not a practical thing where they can make money. I don't think. And the D-pad sucks on the Dreamcast. Yeah, I never liked it. It's too squishy and it's too protruding. It protrudes out too high. Um, but I love the console. Dreamcast is one of my favorite consoles of all time. I was never a fan of that controller. So yeah, I went way longer on something that wasn't even part of my topics here. So I'll get through real quick. And then, you know, I had the stupid delay because of my computer acting a fool. But where are we? GameCube controller. Yes, GameCube controller is awesome. I have mine here. But it also has a wonky ass D-pad. That's its weakest. Wrap this thing. That's its weakest issue. Is the D-pad. I mean, but you get it even over the Dreamcast. You could at least grab it easier and still grip the console the way you want to. And then, I mean, this is the best. It was weird as hell, these bean buttons, but Miyamoto had it right because you can just quickly slide your thumb over, tap. This is the button you're going to be using the most. That's your action button. And then I don't know why this turned into how to hold your controller debates this live stream, but yeah, and obviously these analog or not, yeah, the analog triggers. Remember analog triggers, Nintendo? Were really good. You know, you slightly pressed. You got certain speed levels by doing that. In racing games is great. This is the weird Z button. They didn't know what to do with that. So they threw it right there. It's so stiff. So this is the main issue. But you barely used it anyway. And the D-pad also. I mean, it's basically the Game Boy Advance D-pad. So um, I was used to it, even though it's smaller. But you still got it had good movement on it, and obviously the analog stick is great, and it had the little corners to lock it. Same thing with the camera stick. So yeah, good controller. So let me run through the other stuff because it's not big anyway. Stuff I'm talking about. I went through the October game. I mentioned the fact that I'll just talk mostly about Starlink, and maybe I'll do a video on that. Starlink is coming out on Tuesday, I believe, and it's my most anticipated game this year. Yes, even more than Smash. Oh my God, are you crazy? Again, I don't want to go over Smash. It's Smash. But this is basically kind of a new Star Fox game. So, am I gonna buy Smash? Yes, day one. Am I gonna have a lot of fun playing Smash? Yes. I hope Nintendo gives me an incentive to pay for their online so I can play online. But if I don't have an incentive, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy Nintendo Online for Smash. I'm just not gonna do it. Sorry, I haven't bought it yet. Nintendo made me go out and buy Rocket League for PC because I wanted to play that game. I really like Rocket League, and I haven't been able to play it online since Nintendo implemented their online service. So I went out and bought Rocket League for my PC, and it's glorious on the PC. By the way, I love it. And I bought it for $8, a little under $8. I got a nice deal on it from a website that I use that gives crazy discounts all the time for PC stuff. So back on Rocket League, and that's just one less reason for me to pay for Nintendo's online service. And so if they haven't added anything that's gotten me, because it's cheap, it is cheap. It's $20, yes, but I don't like how it was implemented. Obviously, I'm not going to go over that. I had a whole couple of live streams about it, and I just don't think NES games don't move me at all. And it's funny because a lot of people who defend that, which is fine. If you love playing NES games, great. I don't. I have most of them, and I can play them in other ways. And you know, the novelty of playing them online, whichever ones you can, wears off. I think pretty quickly, and I think I'm right in that because I look at a lot of my friends on my friends list, and I look at their usage of their NES online games, or they're just playing the NES games. Period. Because you can see the time they spend on it, and I've seen a lot of for a few minutes, you know, as far as the time, maybe there's a couple people that had it for an hour that's played it for 2 hours, but we're talking about, you know, it hasn't been out that long, so that also adds to it. But you know, it's been out long enough to where you should be playing it for more than 1 hour, and so a lot of people aren't using it as much, and I know I'm going to use it even less because you know there's other ways to play that, and I don't think that should be forced on me to pay for an online service because that should be an option, you know. But you guys know how I feel about that. I've gone over it enough. I've lost like 100. No, I don't want to say 100. I've lost like 30 to 40 subscribers over it. I'm sure because they don't like me talking bad about Nintendo, even though it's not about Nintendo. It's about their service. But anyway, yeah, somebody mentioned exclusive. That's the word I was having trouble with. I never got tired of holding the game control. So comfy. Yes, that controller is very comfortable. I never get tired of holding it. It just melts in your hand. Don't care about the NES games. I'm obviously same with you, Eric. SNES would be a bit different story. Yes, SNES games would be, and I believe they're coming because they, you know, somebody data mined it and they had the controller for Super Nintendo as well. But I don't like how they implement that either. If you know Super Nintendo games are coming, why not give us a controller that plays both? That, you know, give me the Super Nintendo looking controller out of the gate. We know it's coming. We know Super Nintendo games are coming. Give me that controller out of the gate and not have. So I'm gonna let's say I'm gonna buy the SNES or I'm gonna buy the NES online service or whatever, or the Nintendo Online service comes with the NES games obviously. And then if you want to use that their controller that they have, the NES looking controller that, you know, basically it's like Joy-Cons. If you want to do that, you got to pay another 60, which I think is ridiculous for pricing for that controller. I think, is it 60 or 40? I can't remember. I think it's 40. It's 40. Yeah, it's 40. I'm thinking 60 because you had to pay $20 for the online service. So it's 40. But when the SNES games come out, the NES controller is not going to work for them because you need more buttons. So you're going to put out another controller when you could have just put out that controller from the beginning and we could have used it for our NES games. Like, shady. I think that's shady to me. So it's stuff like that that annoys me. And I think Nintendo was better than that. At least the Nintendo I know. They cared about the value to their customers. And that was a big Iwata thing. And obviously he's not here anymore. And I think that stuff went with him. Some of that stuff, unfortunately, passed along with him. And I just thought the company as a whole was better than doing that kind of stuff. They don't need to do that. You know, don't treat your fans like that. That's just how I feel. All right, I don't care for Smash. I think it's the most overrated Nintendo game. Whoa, 12 feet tall. Whoa. Only like the GameCube and Wii versions because of adventure mode. Yeah, I mean, most people, when you started with Smash, well, N64 game didn't have the kind of. I mean, they had the break the targets thing. They had that was kind of adventure mode-ish, even though it was not adventure mode, but it was different than just fighting you. You had the little bonus levels. That kind of went away in the later versions, which I missed that stuff too. And obviously, you had Subspace Emissary with Wii, which, you know, controls wise, people didn't like, but people were willing to overlook the controls because they liked that mode. I thought they thought that was a cool implementation, and I do too. And if you're gonna make a game called Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, and we're gonna put everything back, we're gonna add everything in, you got to add that in. And I do think that's coming. I do think an adventure mode is coming to Ultimate. I'm sure they'll announce it within the coming months before the game comes out, so that'll be cool. But I don't think Smash is overrated. I think it is a really good fighting game. Um, Maybe it's slightly, I don't know. I don't know how you really gauge it, but it's great. It's a great fighting game series. And after this one, where are they gonna go? I mean, diehards will always buy them, but you know, people that are kind of casual Smash fans, like I'm kind of casual. I'm better than like the baseline casual Smash fan, but um, if this is going to be the ultimate one, what are you going to do to get me on the next one? But you know, why even think about that? This one isn't out yet, so um, I can say that I've played the SNES or NES flicks for only a few hours. Mario 3 can only hold my attention so many times. Yeah, I mean, I've beaten Mario 3 literally over 100 times. Love that game. And that's just the thing. Like, I've played NES games so much over the years because I was there from the beginning. Um, and so for people who aren't, this is a good, cool thing for you. People who never experienced a virtual console, maybe you never bought a Wii or a Wii U, and you're coming back in with the Switch. I can understand why this would be cool to you. This would be a good thing for you. But I'm a diehard Nintendo fan. I've been there literally since day one with the NES. Even before that, Donkey Kong. I was a little baby, getting lifted up by my uncle to play Donkey Kong back in the day. I mean, I wasn't there day one on Donkey Kong. I don't think, when did that come out? 80? Or was it 82? I think it was 82. So, yeah, I wasn't there day one with that, but I remember being a really young kid in the arcades playing that game. So I've been there from the beginning. And for me, what is it, 30 plus years later, 35 years later, to be still playing or and then this in this way, it's not exciting to me. I can see where it could be exciting for some Nintendo fans who missed out on these other things, but I've seen some Nintendo fans who haven't missed out on this stuff that act like this is the bee's knees. I don't know. I don't get that because we had something way better called Virtual Console, um, as far as I'm concerned, and you kept the games, and there was no worried about paying for a service. I have my Virtual Console over from my Wii onto my Wii U, and it's sad that it can't go any further than that. It should be able to, but it's locked there. So what can I say? All right, so yeah, so as far as October games, that's all I'm going to talk about is Starlink, and I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about what I'm going to be doing with the channel and stuff I'm going to be adding. Obviously, you see in the title my hip hop. I didn't finish that. That's good enough for the title. And then moving stress. So hip hop stuff. So I'm gonna be doing a video. I'll probably have it out tomorrow, talking about because I just found this song that I completely forgot about that I did back in probably 2003 with a group of rappers that I was kind of rolling with at the time. And it's a pretty decent, it's a pretty cool story. And I'm going to be giving that song out basically for everybody. I'm gonna upload it somewhere. What is the big thing? SoundCloud or something, to where you guys can download it for free and have it. So it's basically me, my friend Petey. I'm gonna tell you the story on the video, so wait for that. My friend Petey, my friend Strength, that was his rap name, And this girl who I cannot remember her name, we actually met her the day that we recorded this song together. We all kind of met in the studio, and she was really cool. And I'm so mad I can't remember her name. Like I said, I met her that day. I probably talked to her twice after that day. But it was a really cool time in my life, and I was meeting all these cool people, and we just kind of, all four of us kind of just were there that day. We kind of collabed on this song. We were like, all right. She's like, oh, I got this cool beat. I kind of got an idea for a verse. The song is called War. And so she did the chorus, and she had her own verse. And it was a really nice beat. And like everybody was like, all right, you do a verse, you do a verse. So it was like four of us doing a verse for this song called War. And it was a great, one of my favorite memories. I forgot, for some reason, I forgot that I had the song. We all, got a copy at the end of the day, and I just forgot that I had it. So I was just kind of rummaging through my old digital stuff, my digital files, and my old hard drives, and I was like, oh man, this is cool. So be giving that out to you guys for free to download, because there's nothing I can do with it, monetary wise. And at this point, why? It's pretty old, but it's a pretty poignant song. Like I said, I'll tell you the story in the video about it, and you'll be able to download it. And yeah, it was just really cool, all these artists coming together. And I think I only wrote, like actually wrote down, because I'm not a good crunch time MC, like crunch time writer, as far as writing lyrics. I kind of take my time, and but I couldn't be shown up, by everybody else. So I think we all wrote uh, 22 bars or something like that, or more. Maybe it was a little more. We all wrote our rhymes. We sat down and maybe spent 10 minutes on it. And mine was mostly freestyle, and it was pretty good, I might add. I think I wrote maybe the first 8 bars, and then the rest, I'm pretty sure I freestyle, because I think I even have the original my original verse written down. I still have it. I always keep that stuff. As you can see, I don't get rid of I don't get rid of much. So I have all my old rhyme books, most of them. Some of the ones I had in high school are long gone. I would leave them in a desk or something and punch myself in the face because I wrote something really cool and lost it forever. But it was just a cool time. We all came together, wrote our verses. The beat was ready to go. She pretty much had the chorus ready to go. It just flowed so well. It's a really cool story. I hope you guys watch the video. I'll have it up for you tomorrow. I'll probably record it early in the day. It'll be up in the afternoon. So check it out. Download the track and all that good stuff. And yeah, so I don't know if you guys have much you want to say about that, but let's see. No, you're still talking about games, which is cool. Does hip hop exist today, and what's the different? Oh, 12 Feet Tall has a hip hop question. What's up, Josh Brown? What's up? Does hip hop exist today, and what's the difference between then and now? Yes, hip hop does exist today. The problem is it doesn't exist in the mainstream as much today as it did back then. Um, I'm a dinosaur. I'm an old school dude, so like me saying, "Oh, the music today," I just come off sounding like the old guy. Oh, the music today isn't as good, that kind of thing. So why even do that? Obviously, I'm not hip to this stuff because it's not hip hop. I am a hip hop head. My favorite MC of all time is Nasir Ben Adawara Jones. I actually went to his concert late last year in St. Petersburg, Florida. It was awesome. Had a great time. My wife surprised me with it. She, it was what was it for? Was it an anniversary gift? It had to be an anniversary gift because my birthday is in June, and I'm pretty sure it was a little later than June, that concert. But yeah, he's my guy. I definitely like emulated his style to some degree. So I'm an East Coast hip hop head. I love everything. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. That's just where my style comes from, East Coast hip hop. And I love the West Coast, especially '90s. I love the Dirty South when they popped up in what 92, 93 with Outkast. Um, they were just so cool and so different. That's hip hop. Like that, hip hop is saying something. It's not always saying something, but at least on the album somewhere, it's saying something. It's talking about the plight. It's talking about um, you know, it's the hood news. It's how do we escape. Being conscious about things. It's all those things, but it's not one of those things singularly. It's all those things together. So when I hear a lot of these mainstream dude, it's very like plain. They're not talking about anything. They don't seem to be spending much time working on their lyrics at all. It's very cookie cutter, scoopity doo, hoopity hoop, like Dr. Seuss, Mother Goose rhymes. It's real simple stuff, and I like. I don't have to have complicated stuff. If your stuff is complicated and makes sense, you can't just be dropping stuff that you wrote down from the dictionary. It's gotta make sense. You gotta be lyrical with it. So I like lyrics, or I like people who tell stories, good stories. Good storytelling. That's to me, that's what hip hop is. It's good storytelling at its purest form. Um, it's the bravado, it's the braggadociousness, it's your lyrical abilities, all that stuff. But everything is just like radio play now. It's just like or what's it called? Viral. It's all viral video type of stuff. What's quick? What's weak sauce that for the broadest audience possible? And that's not what hip hop is. Hip hop is it's for a specific audience, and obviously stuff that's for a specific audience can reach other audiences. And to me, that's when it's really good, because it's like, okay, you don't really understand what I'm talking about, but you feel it, and that's the best hip hop. Like, you don't really understand these stories I'm telling you about how it is in the inner city, what it's like to live that, but you still feel that. To me, that's the best. Not stuff that you try to play for everybody. Like, that's corny to me. And so, yeah, hip hop still exists. There's a lot of really good underground stuff. There's a lot of guys. There's still guys out there that I like J. Cole. There are guys that are still lyrical who look up to the guys that I grew up listening to. They rock with those guys. So they've been, grandfathered in. They understand it. A lot of these dudes is just about money. Um, and hip hop was always about money, but it wasn't only about money. So what a lot of these dudes, it's only about this thing or it's only about that thing. When hip hop is rap, you rap about things, but hip hop encompasses, all that stuff. So I mean, I could talk about this forever, but I'll talk about this more in that video. It's going to be a little bit longer of a video, the war, when I'm talking about the song we did. So check out for that. East Coast hip hop forever. Yes, Josh Brown. Um, fuck that mumble rap, says Santiago. Yes, Santiago. That gets no play for me. Like, I don't have the ear for that. And I have the ear. Like I said, I have the ear for new stuff. I'm not one of those dudes, only the 90s hip hop and below that. That's all I care about. No, like, I still listen to dudes today. I like a lot of stuff that comes out. What's his name? Jordan Lucas. I like his stuff. Like, there's dudes out there that are lyrical, that do get like bigger shine. But it's just not enough. It's not like it was in the 90s where you got grimy stuff on the radio. It was the more grimy stuff. The Wu-Tang was on the radio. Like, everybody knew Wu-Tang. That they are a grimy, grungy group, and they don't play for like the cookie cutter everybody audience like a lot of this other stuff does with the auto tune. I can't believe auto tune is still a thing right now. Like, I thought that would be long deaded, but it's still a thing because people, to me, it's still a thing because dudes have no talent. You know, they use that to mask the fact that they don't have talent. Oh, I like that sound everybody uses. You know, everybody has that sound, so it's just a sound that you're used to, and so you just kind of deal with it. Or it's just like, you know, a really good hook. You know, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm comfortable with that. I'm used to that, and that's why everybody does it. And it's so lame to me. Like, you had a couple of guys that would copy some of the other bigger guys, but to me, everybody sounds, not everybody. Again, to me, the dudes that do what I'm talking about sound the same. They all sound the same. Like, the whole rhyme scheme is the same. It's just corny. It's corny to me. So, um, Charles Hamilton. I've heard of Charles Hamilton, but I haven't heard anything from him. I don't think. I might have, but I don't think. Xbox equals mumble rap. I don't think so. Xbox today is actually more niche uh, than you know, PlayStation. Obviously, everybody has that. Nintendo was like Cool G Rap, still spitting fire. Cool G Rap, yeah. Um, see, you're right. But there's some aspects of Nintendo today that are kind of dipping his toe in mumble rap. Like, if you want to compare like Nintendo to rap music or hip hop, they doing some commercial stuff that I'm not feeling right now. That's why I'm a little upset with them. So it's not that I have a problem with commercial rap, because like I said, in the '90s, the grimy stuff was commercial. Like, Method Man was very commercial. Like, you know, especially when he did his soul stuff, and even his Redman, him and Redman, like, that stuff was commercial, but it was still grungy tracks. You know, it was still grimy tracks. It wasn't played for the radio. It was like, all right, we're gonna do something for the streets, and then try to, you know, edit it for the radio. But today it seems like a lot of the stuff is, what's the radio version ahead of time, you know? And it's corny. Like, you got to be true to yourself as an artist. Like, it's got to come from here and here first. Then you deal with what's out here. That's, you know, that's why I never got famous. You know, so if you haven't listened to some Tech Nine, yeah, I know about Tech Nine. Yeah, I'm leaving people out because I'm just getting on to some. I actually like. I just got on to G Easy. I like G Easy. I think he's talented. I don't know how you guys feel about him. You probably known him longer than me. He's been out longer than I realized, because I didn't know he's been out there. But I actually like G Easy. Every time, what superpower does Method Man have? I love the fact that, because in the '90s especially, there was a lot of guys that were using like drug dealer names. I think that was mostly started with like, I want to say Nas and uh, Biggie kind of did the whole drug dealer kind of, or maybe Wu Tang. You could throw Wu Tang in there too. They did the whole kind of drug dealer like, second name. So you had um, what was Method Man's kind of, because some of those dudes, they were using like superhero names as their kind of second name. You had, obviously, Biggie was Frank White. Frank White is from King of New York, the movie. So it wasn't like actual drug dealers. Sometimes it was movie drug dealers. So you had that, and I just thought that aspect was cool. It was kind of like wrestlers, you know, with, you know, the Undertaker. You know, they had their kind of second name that they would use in tracks. I just thought that was a cool thing, and you just don't see creativity like that. Everybody's Lil Pump, a Lil Trump, a Lil something. You know, it's like, really, Lil? Like, Lil was a thing that started in the '90s, and dudes are way overusing that in their names now. Lil Yachty's and Lil Hotties and Naughties. And I know I sound like an old dude saying this stuff, but it's corny. It's like, be more creative. Like, hip hop is the essence of hip hop is creativity, man. Like, be more creative. Tupac is the greatest rapper of all time. I would probably agree with that. He's definitely the most influential. I love Tupac. Like, I love. Mm, I don't, how many albums does he have? I can't even remember. But I love most of his stuff. The dude was, his energy is untouchable. The only dude that came close to him energy wise was DMX. Like I think DMX in his prime was like energy wise. I'm talking had that same kind of that energy that is unmatched. Um, and there's a few guys throughout history that hip hop that came close, but DMX was pretty close as far as Tupac's energy. But as far as influence, I mean, Tupac obviously influenced DMX. He influenced guys like him. He influenced even Eminem. There's a lot of tracks that I hear from Eminem that that do the dubbing thing that Tupac used to use dubbing a lot, which means he'd go over his he lay his verse down and then he lay another layer verse over that to add more kind of fire to it. And I don't know if Eminem does it as much anymore, but he used to do it earlier in his earlier albums and stuff. So, Eminem, there's no, he talks about being a white Pac, so there's no surprise that he was influenced by him. And Ja Rule even. I was never the biggest Ja Rule fan, but I respected his game. Like he had some hits, he had some fire hits that I like. Um, so yeah, there's guys out there. Um, Tupac, California Love, favorite. Um, I don't know what my favorite would be. I couldn't pick one for Tupac. He has so many great songs. Um, my favorite album from him is probably Me Against the World, because I can listen to that album all the way through, not skip anything, and know almost every song. I used to listen to that album like crazy. That's when he was locked up. The album pretty much came out when he got locked up, and I used to play it all the time. So Brenda's Got a Baby, shed so many tears from Me Against the World. That was a great track. Dear Mama, Me Against the World. Yep, I can go on and on too, J Love. So yeah, let's get out of here. I'm just gonna talk about moving stress. I'm about 2 weeks away from moving, and the closer you get to that date, the more stressful it gets. So it's like moving back to Florida, Central Florida, and my wife is already there. My wife and kids are already there. They've been there. If you guys watch my other live streams, you know this stuff already. And so I've been without them for over a month now, and that's been stressful as hell, really hard. I actually went and visited them. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? I think it was the weekend before. So I got to at least get a little family time in, about 3 days, and so that was good. But now I'm back, and it's like, moving truck, and because I'm driving, so we're gonna. That's how I got here. I drove the 1,400 miles or whatever it is from Florida up here, and so now it's the logistics of getting a truck and getting all our stuff. Because my wife's coming back, but I don't want her to come back to have to pack anything. I want to have everything packed, and I'm getting pretty close to finishing that. So, but it's still stressful. It's like expenses out the wazoo, fees for this and that, unforeseeable stuff. We had to drop, obviously for our new house, we had to get a deposit, and then the first month. So we're talking, nice coin. So it's just stressful dealing with that, and but I'm just gonna be happy in about 3 to 4 weeks when it's all over and I'm settled, and I have my office space where I can really. I want to talk about it because it's like that's what I'm moving. One of the reasons is I'm going to be able to have a bigger office space and be able to do more stuff. And I got some really cool ideas, and that's part of my show's going crazy. I'm implementing, as I said before, I want to do movie stuff. I'm not gonna go too crazy on it on this channel. I'm actually gonna start a new channel for my movie stuff, and I have really good ideas for it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do movie stuff on here. Like maybe I'll do clips of a full video or something like that of my movie stuff from my movie channel to get some of you guys who care about that to move over. Itchy nose to move over to my my movie-based YouTube channel and get in on that. So you'll see some snippets of full videos. What can I think of? I don't know if you guys are familiar with Double Toasted. You have basically you have to subscribe to their website, I think, to get their full videos. But every day they have, I'm not gonna be able to do it every day. It's not a job for me. But they have basically edited videos like that are like 20 to 30 minutes long sometimes, depending on what the topic is, and they'll go over, they'll chop it up for their YouTube channel, and you watch the full stuff by um, being a supporter of their website. But for me, I'm not. It's not a paid thing. You just subscribe to the main channel. I have a name for it. I don't want to tell you yet. I have a name for it. I think it's pretty clever, and um, and I'm gonna have, so that'll just be movie stuff, movie, television stuff. So what's gonna happen is gonna be me and Puppet T. It's going to be like a back and forth thing between us. We're going to have conversations about movies. So we'll be, uh, we're going to be reviewing stuff, reviewing movies. We're going to go back, review old stuff. We're going to have little skits based around that. Um, and I'm going to implement, like I said, some of that stuff to this channel. But if you want the full thing, you're going to have to go over and subscribe to the other YouTube channel. So, because I don't want to, because this is, a Nintendo-based YouTube channel. I didn't want to hit subscribers with stuff that they didn't come here and subscribe for. So I didn't want to muddy the waters, so to speak, for this channel. So let me know what you guys think about that. Your room is moving. Your room is moving. Stress alone. I'm I'm not reading that right, or I'm missing something there. All Eyes on Me, Come First, Machiavelli, Seventh Day, Theory, Me Against the World, classic album. Yeah, J Love, good. Yeah, those are all great picks. Josh Brown, what Florida? Yeah, I moved up from Florida to Massachusetts um, in 2011, I think, fall of 2011. So I'm, you know, this is how it goes for me. You guys, if you see my Nintendo Labo video, you know that my dad's job, we moved almost every year with his job, so I was used to that. But I was born in New York and mostly lived up until 15 in New York, and then when I turned 15, we moved to Tampa, Florida, and I spent 17 years straight in Tampa, Florida from there. So it was cool being a New York dude moving down to Tampa, Florida, and having started my whole hip hop thing and being way different than most of the guys that were down here. So that's why I kind of stood out, and so that was cool. But yeah, so it's not like Florida is anything new to me. I've been there for a long time, longer than a lot of people have been alive. So I'm used to it. And I miss, because the thing about living in the Northeast, at least this part, like, I would like to move back to New York, live in a city, but I don't know if I want to raise my kids in the city. That's is one thing if it's just me and my wife or whatever, but maybe some point we'll move back when the kids are older or whatever, and they decide what they want to do. But damn, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so I'm used to, like I said, I'm used to living in Florida. I missed, yeah, what I was going to say. The thing about the Northeast, and I live in basically the suburbs. There's not a lot around here, a lot going on. You 5 months out of the year, it's cold, or it's snowing and cold, and it just makes you not want to be outside. And that's the thing I miss about living in Florida is like, the coldest it gets there, at least the part of Florida I'm moving to, central and south, is like, low 40s, mid 40s, and that's only for a short time in the year, couple months. That's the coldest it gets, and 10 months out of the year, I can feel being outside and want to do things, and instead of staying inside getting fat, I can get back to doing the stuff I like doing, riding my bike and all that stuff. So I'm gonna be happy to get back. And my aunts, uncles, and cousins, um, they and my grandparents passed now. My aunts, uncles, cousins, and all that, they live in New York. But my mom, dad, brothers, and sisters, they're in Florida. They've been there since '95 when we moved. No, it was '95. Mid to late '90s. I can't remember exactly when. But they've been there since. And so I miss, my brothers, and I miss my sisters, and I miss my mom and stuff. So, and I have little kids, so they have cousins that are their age that they can't see up here, and so it's going to be good for them to be able to be around their cousins and grow up with them. So, because that's what I got. I got to grow up with my cousins, and that was a big part of my growing. So it was cool. Um, I can. I stay in Florida too, man. What part? J Love. I'm moving to Kissimmee, by the way. Um, so I'll be close enough to Tampa, where my family is. Man, moving are always stressful. I hate moving. 12 feet tall. Yeah, it sucks. It does. It just sucks. But it's something we got to do. So the next three weeks are going to be pretty hectic. Um, but after that, I'll be doing what I want to do. My man Puppet T says Josh Brown, 12 feet tall. So what's your plan for Halloween? Good question, because I thought I was going to be here up until about a month ago, but not going to be here. But that may be a good thing because I won't be freezing my ass off in Halloween. It's not that cold. It's here. It's hitting the low 50s to the 40s right now. I think it's been 45 all day here today. So, but it's probably going to be 70s in Florida. So, my plans is to go trick or treating with my kids. We're going to definitely do that. Um, uh, I did like trick or treating here. It was very nice. So it's going to be the same there. I did that a lot too. So many YouTubers already started making videos on horror related stuff. Yeah, I mean that's just the thing. Like I want to do that stuff, but I see so many people do it. Like again, I talk about being creative, and when I see a bunch of people do the same thing, it bores me out of doing it. Same thing with my game related videos. If I see a bunch of people in my feed talking about the same thing, and I know they all know that they're all talking about the same thing, that's corny. Like I know it's a news thing. It's like you got to get your video out right away so you can get the maximum clicks. And I mean I get that stuff, but I can't force myself to be that way. So if I see a bunch of people talk about the same thing, it turns me off to talking about it because like I know you guys, a lot of you guys watch some of the same people I watch, and do you really care to hear my video? Now, if I can do something unique with it, like using puppet tea or plastic tea to implement it, but I had to think about that. So by the time I come up with something cool about that news, that's creative, that's my angle. By the time I do that, the news would be gone. They'd be on to something else, and nobody even wants to care. Would even care about that video at that point. So it's just like, demotivating. Again, this is not my job. Like some of these guys do. The minute something happens, they're home and they can go right on and make a video about it. I can't do that. So, um, at least news stuff. So, um, I'm gonna be getting back to my documentary stuff. Like I said, my mini docs. The first one is gonna be what do you call it? Not an upgrade, but an update to my Nintendo Cycle video. I've been wanting to do that for a while. Um, so it'll be an update to that. Um, so I'm going to go through the whole video. It's going to be basically a remaster of the video. I'm going to go through the whole video again from Nintendo NES to Nintendo Switch now because it stopped at Wii U when I made that video, and so it was NES It's Revolution to Evolution, or yeah, Revolution to Evolution, the Nintendo cycle. So I'm gonna do an update to that video. So it's gonna be NES NES is the Revolution, SNES is the Evolution, N64 Revolution, GameCube is the evolution of the N64, Wii the Revolution again, Wii U is the evolution of Wii U, and now Switch. It's gonna be a little bit different. It is a revolution, but it's gonna be a little different. So I'm gonna add that on to the end of the video. And the visual is gonna be different. I'm not gonna reuse the audio or anything. So it's just gonna be I'm gonna reuse the script, but I'm gonna not use the Lil T voice. I'm gonna use my regular voice, and the visuals are gonna be different. So it's gonna be like I said, a remaster of it, adding in Switch. So look forward to that. That's pretty much all I got. We're about to hit midnight here. This is craziness. Yet somehow 80 of you guys are still hanging on. That's cool. Let's see if there's anything else you guys have in comments here. So, what's your plans for Halloween? I said that. Many YouTubers already started making videos. I said that. And J Love, you're in Fort Lauderdale. Cool. That's near Miami, right? That's cool. All right. This is 12 Feet Tall. Said this was fun. Thank you. I had fun talking about it. I can't believe I went so long on a topic that I wasn't even gonna do when I made the basically the announcement that I was gonna do this tonight. But it's video games. I'm passionate about video games. I'm not like some of these frauds who do this for accolades or do it for attention and they're not really into it. I'm mad into certain things. Hip hop is my love. Film, movies is my love. Music in general is one of my loves. Comic books, not as much anymore, but I used to be a crazy comic book head. I still have like 400 comic books in my collection. Hip hop is my love, and video games is my heart. It's my love. So I could talk forever about, literally, I could talk forever about video games. I can literally talk to you forever about music, hip hop, not just hip hop, but I'm a music head. I love all kinds of stuff. I listen to anything from Ray Charles to Smashing Pumpkins to Metallica to J. Cole. So I listen to a lot of stuff. So I can talk forever about these things, comic books. I can talk forever about. So these are my passions. So and that's one thing I'll be able to do on my new channel, which is to get into my other love, which is movies. Obviously, I'm a filmmaker myself. I haven't filmed anything in about, well, I haven't filmed any movies in about a year and a half. My last film was a year and a half ago that I wrapped up. But I'm about to get back on that. I got scripts in the works. So that's stuff I'm going to be talking about on my movie channel with a cool name. So make sure you subscribe when I pop all that good stuff up. And thank you guys for joining me, hanging on. I'm sorry about the technical difficulty stuff. I got to figure out what's wrong with my PC. It just keeps disconnecting from the internet for no reason. Everything else is fine. My internet is fine. So it's some software issue. I got to find whatever bug it is and check it out. That's why I don't like PCs. So I love my Mac. But my Mac isn't fast enough or good enough in the video card department to do live stream stuff. So that's why I use my PC for that, but it's been tripping lately. So, but anyway, thank you guys for watching and listening, and I'll see you on the next one. Like I said, look out for my video tomorrow on the hip hop stuff. Make sure you download that track. I think the hip hop guys, hip hop heads out here who watch me are gonna love it. So, peace, and I'm out.